Have you ever felt like the world decided you were done? Not because you failed, not because you gave up, but simply because you aged. One day the calls stopped coming. The questions stopped being asked. People started looking past you instead of toward you. They call it natural. They call it the cycle of life. But deep down, something in you knows that's not how your story ends. Because you've been through fire. You've endured what most men wouldn't survive. You've lost and rebuilt. You've stayed standing while others ran. And yet, the world dares to ask less of you now? No, this isn't your sunset. This is your sharpening. In this video, we're not talking about motivation. We're talking about power earned, quiet, unshakable power. We're talking about why older men stop chasing and start drawing people in. Why stillness becomes more commanding than shouting. Why true masculinity doesn't apologize, it holds. You'll hear truths that stir your spine, stories that remind you who you are, and words that feel like steel sliding into your backbone. So if any part of you has felt invisible lately, watch this. And if somewhere deep inside, there's still a fire waiting for permission to burn again, this is it. Let it rise. If you're a man past 50, the world has likely whispered a quiet verdict about you, not with words, but in absence. The way conversations no longer pause for your thoughts. The way younger faces glance past, not toward. The way doctors talk more about managing decline than building strength. And somewhere in all that silence, a lie slips in. That your best years are behind you. That you've peaked. That the world has moved on. But here's what they don't know, what they can't see. You're not fading. You're forming. Because now, you've got something no 20-year-old can fake. Time-tested vision. A mind calloused from storms. A backbone forged in failure. And most of all, a new urgency. Not desperation, but clarity. Because you've run out of years to waste. This isn't about pep talks or nostalgia. This is war against the version of you that settled. It's a quiet uprising. A man reclaiming the years they told him were done. You've buried friends. You've been the last man standing in empty rooms. You've felt love slip away. You've stared into mornings without meaning. But you're still here. And that doesn't make you finished. It makes you dangerous. Because now you move different. You walk like someone who's been through fire. You speak less, but your words land harder. And when you stand still, the whole room feels it. That's where your story turns. Not because you chase youth, but because you stop needing it. And what happens when a man stops chasing? We're going there next. There's a moment in a man's life when noise no longer excites him. In youth, we run. Toward women, status, titles, cars, attention, anything that screams, you matter. But you learn over time that motion doesn't equal meaning. And running rarely takes you anywhere worth staying. Stillness arrives like a new sense. Not because you've slowed down, but because you've finally seen enough to know what's real. Stillness isn't weakness. It's restraint. It's knowing when to act and when to hold. The young lion chases. He exhausts himself proving he's powerful. But the old lion, he waits. He watches. Because he knows something deeper. Power isn't loud. It's quiet confidence. It's the decision to not respond because not everything deserves a response. It's the clarity to know that peace is worth more than dominance. And here's the paradox. The quieter you become, the louder your presence feels. People feel gravity in men who no longer need applause. Women turn their heads not because you tried, but because you didn't. Stillness isn't standing still. It's standing solid. And once you've mastered it, a new question rises. What if you stopped apologizing for who you are altogether? We'll go there now. Somewhere along the way, being a man became something to apologize for. Speak too firm? You're harsh. Hold standards? You're controlling. Don't emote on command? You're cold. Stay calm under pressure? You're disconnected. But here's the truth every seasoned man begins to see. You don't owe the world your softness. Not when it's your strength that's been tested. Not when silence has taught you more than noise ever could. There comes a time when a man stops shrinking to make others comfortable. He stops dimming so others can shine. He stops translating his nature into something more palatable. That time is now. You don't have to fit into their script. You are the mountain they learn to walk around. Not because you demand it, but because you've earned the space you take up. Masculinity isn't about being loud or forceful. It's about presence. It's about holding your line when it would be easier to fold. It's about walking into a room and not needing to explain why you matter. Let them call it too much. That's fine. The world is full of noise and negotiation. But a man who knows who he is, who doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't explain, he becomes the rarest kind of force, unapologetic. And when a man stops apologizing, something else wakes up inside him. A hunger to rebuild, not just his body, but his way of moving through the world. Let's talk about that discipline next. They told you discipline was about control, about cold routines, about barking orders at yourself like a drill sergeant. They were wrong. Real discipline, earned not forced, is dignity. It's how a man says, "I still matter." It's how he answers a world that's tried to file him away. Discipline isn't about waking up at 5 a.m. because a book said so. It's about honoring your mornings because they're yours. It's about moving your body not to impress anyone, but to stay ready for life, for loss, for legacy. The older you get, the more each choice echoes. There's no more room for autopilot. No more wasting hours chasing shallow dopamine. No more pretending one more episode, or just this weekend, doesn't have a cost. Because now, time feels different. Every minute costs more. Every decision is a vote for the man you'll become. And that's where discipline steps in, not as punishment but as clarity. Eat like you respect yourself. Move like someone who plans to be here a while. Think like a man building something invisible but lasting. Wake up and meet the morning like it's the only one you'll get. Because here's the secret. Discipline doesn't drain you. It restores you. It brings back that fire behind your eyes. It sharpens your edge. And once you've lit that fire again, the fog starts to lift. Suddenly, you see what matters, what doesn't, and more importantly, who you've been letting decide that for you. Let's clear the mental clutter next. Modern life numbs you. Endless screens.
Fast scrolling.
Half-thought opinions repeated like gospel. Most men don't realize they're sleepwalking. They call it routine. But it's a slow erosion of clarity, of hunger, of self. So how do you wake up? Not with another podcast. Not with another book on your nightstand that you never finish. You wake up by getting uncomfortable on purpose. Cold water in the morning. A blank journal staring back at you. A silent walk. No headphones, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Because somewhere in that silence, the man you used to be starts knocking. It's not about trends. It's not about hacks. It's about reminding your nervous system that you're alive, that you still have edges, that your body is a tool, not an ornament. And your mind starts to warm, not with positivity quotes or fake optimism, but with direction, focus, discipline turned into presence. You stop reacting to every headline. You stop outsourcing your energy to algorithms. You stop waiting for permission to feel alive. You don't need more stimulation. You need space. You need mornings that sharpen you instead of scatter you. And when you give yourself that space, something strange happens. You start to feel whole again. Not grasping, not seeking, just standing full. And that's when the chase ends. Not just in life, but in love too. There's a point in a man's life when he stops chasing women. Not out of bitterness. Not because he gave up. But because the game got old, the masks got heavy, the pretending got boring. He no longer wants to impress. He wants to be met. And here's the paradox. The moment he stops chasing is the moment he starts attracting. Not the drama, not the performative affection, but depth. Stillness meets stillness. And the right woman, she feels it. Because women don't fall for noise. They lean into gravity. A man who's whole, who isn't performing, posturing, or pleasing. He's magnetic. He doesn't try to be younger. He doesn't dress like his son. He doesn't rehearse charm in the mirror. He owns the gray. He wears the lines on his face like a map, proof he's lived, lost, learned. He speaks from the chest, not the throat. He listens more than he talks. And when he talks, you feel it. Because he's not looking to be completed. He already is. This is the kind of man who stops trying to be the answer and becomes the question. And once you stop living outside yourself, you begin to wonder, what am I leaving behind? That's where the next chapter begins. Most men think legacy is a trophy, a nameplate, a bank account, something heavy and shiny left behind after they're gone. But real legacy? It's invisible. It's in the way a room shifts when your name is mentioned. It's in the quiet respect of men who watched how you moved. It's in the stories your children tell when no one's recording. Legacy isn't built in one grand act. It's etched into the small decisions, when no one's watching. How you treat the waitress. How you hold the door without expecting thanks. How you speak to the boy who hasn't figured out who he is yet. It's in what you tolerate, what you protect, what you demand of yourself when excuses would be easier. You don't need a podium. You don't need a plaque. You need consistency. You need integrity that doesn't shift with convenience. You need to live like your story matters, even if no one writes it down. Because here's the truth most men realize too late. You're not remembered by the titles you held. You're remembered by the weight of your presence. So ask yourself, what are you echoing? And if legacy isn't a question of wealth or fame, then maybe it's this. Who will they quote when they ask? Who taught you how to be a man? There's a man in every story. The one who showed up when it mattered. The one who didn't flinch. The one who spoke once but changed everything. And someday someone will ask a younger man, who showed you how to carry yourself like that? Who taught you how to hold eye contact like a promise? Who showed you what strength looks like in silence? And the answer could be your name. Not because you were perfect. Not because you were famous. But because you lived with weight. Because you chose purpose when comfort was easier. Because you remembered who you were when others forgot. This is not the end of your story. It's the sharpening, the distillation. You've lived enough to matter. Now it's time to live like it. So walk like a man who's done negotiating his worth. Speak like every word costs something. Stand like someone who's seen death and chose to build anyway. You are not past your prime. You are not finished. You are the man they will quote. And the story you write from this day on, let it be the one that answers every question they never thought to ask.